All right. Welcome to our Time to Restore quarterly call. This is our first call for phase two. And officially the phase two started in September. We didn't really get things going until we got the funding here at the U of A in October, but I'm glad to see we have some new faces here. Maybe we can do a quick round of introductions because I feel like we have a lot of people who maybe haven't met each other yet. But I'm Erin Postumus. I'm the lead on the project, a University of Arizona employee here. And yeah, really excited to be joined by our Time to Restore team here. I did want to introduce Teresa Crimmins is our director here at the USA-NPN, and she is now the PI on the project. And we're really excited to have her on the project for this phase two. Teresa brings a lot of experience in phenology research. She's a plant ecologist by training and has done some really cool work with flowering phenology. So I don't know if you want to say anything else and then you can popcorn it to the next person.
Thanks, Erin. That seems like a pretty good summary. Honestly, my background is in plant ecology and I love studying phenology and how plants are responding to rapidly changing conditions. And I'm just really excited to be a part of this effort because I've watched this project for the whole previous round and it was just super impressive. And I'm excited to see where it can go. So with that, I will pass it to Annie.
My name is Annie Montes. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I work with the Bosque Ecosystem Monitoring Program. That's how I got involved with this. I do like our phenology monitoring in the Bosque in one of our sites. And I can pass it to Kim Eichhorst.
Hi everyone, Kim Eichhorst. I work with Andy through BEMP, and we actually are a long-term ecosystem monitoring program that also focuses on education outreach. And so this was like the perfect dovetail for us getting students involved in data collection that have meaning for managers. And I will pass it on to you, Antonio.
Hello, everyone. I am Antonio Castilla. I am new faculty at Oklahoma State University. And my main interest is about how changes in flowering phenology can affect pollinator communities and how that can be translated into potential effects in the genetic variability of plant populations. Very excited. It's my first meeting with you, and I am very excited to be part of this team. And I would like to pass the word to Sarah.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, trying out some new headphones. My name is Sarah Quisenberry Wallace. I'm a library employee at Noble Public Library with the Pioneer Library System in Noble, Oklahoma. And we are starting this spring our first local phenology program. I became a certified local phenology leader with the NPN here recently, just like a month ago. So we'll be launching and we'll be focusing on the Time to Restore campaign. So I wanted to be informed of what y'all are wanting to focus on and how things are going. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Brooke.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brooke Best. I am with the Fort Worth Botanic Garden and the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. I'm the director of Texas Plant Conservation here, and I'm kind of here to figure out how I can help out kickstart this phase two. Happy to be here, so I'll hand it off to Jenny.
Hi, everyone. I think this is my first meeting as well. My name is Jenny Mosley, and I'm the Director of Land Sustainability at the Chickasaw Nation. And Amelia will probably also be joining us. She is the manager at the cask. She had took April's place. But we're all closed down here in Oklahoma. So I don't know if you guys know, all the weather we're getting is kind of crazy. So I'm super excited to be a part of this group and hope that I can also, like Brooke said, see where I fit in on helping propel this to the next level. And I will pass it to Yvette.
Hi, everyone. I think Well, I know this is my second meeting, but I don't really know what else going on. So I'm excited to learn. I'm one of the tribal liaisons with the South Central Climate Adaptation Science Center. So I work with Amelia and Jake and Jenny. And I have in the past, I'm in Oklahoma, but I work remotely from Tulsa, even though we're based out of the Norman campus. So I'm pretty close, and I have known Jane Breckenridge for quite some time now. So I'm only about 30 miles away from the Uchee Butterfly Farm, which I've been out there many times on their allotment land where there's, well, she's Uchee and I'm Creek or Muskogee. But I know I have watched the Tribal Alliance for Pollinators and Uchee Butterfly Farm just grow from, I was working for my tribe when she first started out, grow from basically nothing to this expansive, wonderful entity that they have going on now. And I don't come in with a plant background. I come in more with water and wildlife and just basic ecology background. So, but you know, that ties in plants too. So I'm excited to see how this goes. Thanks. And I will pass it off to Jake.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jake Biloxi. I am the other Cass Tribe liaison. I'm working in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my focus is just on the state of New Mexico, but I've been lucky enough to get to work with Kim Ecorst a little bit, and I've heard a lot about this project, and I'm excited to hear some more. Let's see. I'll pass it off to Gina Lloyd.
Hey y'all, I'm Gina. I'm the Louisiana State Coordinator for Time to Restore, and I'm coming at it from a background in herpetology. So I got into working with Time to Restore and doing Nature's Notebook programs with students for educational programs through the National Park Service. And Gail Bishop came to run a workshop and kind of just snowballed from there. But I'm really, really enjoying our work in Louisiana. We've had a lot of great new partners come on board for this year. So I basically function to provide support to our local phenology partners, do whatever accessory work is necessary, like taking videos of ripe seeds or documentation of plants at different phenophases, stuff like that. So super excited to see what phase 2 is going to bring. And who has yet to go? Gail, how about I popcorn to you?
Hi, everybody. My name's Gail Bishop. It says Laura, but that's my middle name. And I am based out of Ocean Springs, Mississippi. I've been with the Gulf Coast Phenology Trail for over 6 years, going on 7. And we are working with Gina when possible to help out with Time to Restore, but I'm here just kind of as background today. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming. Let's go to Mia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mia Wawrick. I'm a research fellow with the National and Southeast Climate Adaptation Science Centers, and I am working on a project with very similar and overlapping objectives to the Time to Restore project. Through the National Climate Adaptation Science Center, I'm more focused on the Mid-Atlantic region. So I'm providing some project coordination on that and come from a plant ecology background. And let's see, is it Von Seal, Norman?
It is. Good job. I figured nobody wanted to attempt the name. I'm out of the Oklahoma University biosurvey, and so I work a lot with Priscilla Crawford. I am the ODOT biologist who works on the highways, part of the Monarch. We are part of the Monarch CCA program. And so we are restoring habitat or preserving habitat within our right-of-ways for monarch and pollinator benefits. And I'm also on the Okies for Monarch steering committee here in the state of Oklahoma. I'm like, we have a strong Oklahoma contingent on this call right now. And so we're interested in how plants are going to react in the very harsh environments of rights-of-way, and how we can keep that type of habitat available for pollinators as we go through all of the changes that we were seeing coming. And so that's why we kind of partnered with Priscilla at the university. And I haven't had a lot of opportunity to jump in with you guys because I'm always in the field, but I was glad I could make this call today because it's so icy. And let's see who's left. Charlize?
Hi, I'm Charlesy Shaver. I am the owner of a native plant nursery called Chickadee Natives here in New Orleans. And I focus on local ecotypes. And I've made it to, I think, one of these meetings a long time ago. So I look forward to just getting caught up and being more involved in the future.
Thanks for joining us. I think Rob, and then we have Melanie's coming in too. So we'll go to you first, Rob.
Sure. Bonjour. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Kroll. I'm the Climate Change Program Coordinator for the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission. I'm up here in Odana, Wisconsin, where it's actually warm today. Well, relatively, it's probably getting close to 25. We spent the last week in the single digits or below zero. So we work for 11 Ojibwe tribes up here in Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, helping them to maintain and implement their off-reservation treaty rights. And I was asked fairly early on in phase 1 of Time to Restore to help out with some issues surrounding tribal data sovereignty. And so they keep asking me to come back. I don't know why.
Glad you're here. So Melanie, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're just finishing up introduction. So if you want to jump in, I think you're our last person, but let me know if I missed anything too.
Sure. Yeah, I was happy I was able to join. I'm not particularly situated in the exact region that you all are working on, but I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I work as the extension educator at the Institute of American Indian Arts in our land grant programs, which is our ag extension and environmental education department. And yeah, I had the opportunity to see Erin do a couple of presentations and to sit in on a couple of these meetings, which I've just found to be really helpful and have been learning a lot. So I appreciate being able to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, and you're in our region where New Mexico counts, so we're
oh,
we're
good. For some reason,
yeah.
I thought maybe there was at one point you guys were in the North Central or something, but
yeah, we've had lots of different projects, but yeah, this one in particular covers Oklahoma, New Mexico, Texas, and Louisiana. And we haven't had a super big focus on Texas so far, but that's one of the big components of phase 2. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we have these quarterly calls is to kind of connect everyone who's working on pollinator restoration in the region. So definitely like open it up if anyone, heard something and they're really interested in connecting with someone else on the call. Feel free to, exchange emails in the chat, or we can make some time at the end if you have like questions for each other. But we definitely want to make sure that we have the space for making those connections. And I think it's really cool that we have people from all across the region on the call. So definitely want to make time for that. So I just have a couple slides, but we are, as I mentioned, in our phase 2 of our Time to Restore project. This is a project that's funded by the South Central Climate Adaptation Science Center. And this is our 3rd year of funding. We had 2 years of funding in phase 1 from the project, and this will be a 3-year phase 2. For today, I thought I would just share out the final version of the info sheets that we created in phase 1 in case you haven't seen those. And then we'll also talk about what's next for us, the kind of the first things coming up in phase 2. And then I did want to revisit our priority species list. This is we kind of came up with this short list of species, but one of the things we propose in phase 2 is checking back in on that. There's been some difficulty in finding some of those species in the different states. So I'd want to revisit that and then share some SEAF resources that in particular Gina Lloyd has been cooking up for us, some great little videos that we're going to be trying to post on the website. So I want to get your feedback on those too. So in terms of the info sheets, I just want to share one example from New Mexico. These are linked within or on the Time to Restore landing page. I can put that link in the chat. And then they're also linked within a story map that kind of goes through and describes the whole process of our our project in phase one, kind of what we learned from the different stakeholder workshops, and then kind of our process in putting together these info sheets. So we have an info sheet for New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. Didn't include Texas on phase one, but we will be doing that in the second phase. But each of the info sheets kind of has similar information on the first page. We have just a little bit of a background on what we're doing. We did a literature review on what's kind of already out there for shifts in phenology of flowering plants in the region. There wasn't really much, so we actually included some research from outside the region as well. We have a section that's on some of the restoration organizations in the state. And then we have a summary, and this is actually leveraging the South Central Climate Adaptation Science Center climate projections that look forward to mid-century and try to project out how the temperature and the precipitation is going to be changing. So we summarize that here for the state. And then really the bulk of the research that we did, the analysis that we did last year was on the data collection of these flowering plants across the state, across the region, and then putting them together into visualizations and then creating some models that actually project forward how we think flowering and fruiting timing is going to be changing in the future. So each of the state info sheets has an example of what we call a single species calendar. This is showing some, 3 different types of information for one of our nectar plants. And the text here explains kind of what's in each one. And then we have a community calendar that has all the species that we had enough data for that were of interest to this state. And then we have, in addition to the calendar, we have this model-based projection that looks at what are kind of the climate drivers or the climate cues that seem to influence the different phenology, flowering and fruiting. And then taking that information and using the climate projection information to see how we think the flowering or the fruiting timing might shift by mid-century. And so we have that for the species that are in the calendar that we had enough data for. And then we have the full list of other species that we had from other states at the bottom here. And so I think one thing to note is there is quite a bit of gaps in these calendars. So you can see the spaces where there's not even a gray line means we don't really have any data collected there. So I think it reflects that there's still quite a great need to collect more data. And so that's one of the main focuses of this phase 2. But any thoughts on that? I will put the link. Let me grab the link for the Time to Restore landing page, and I'll put that in the chat. But if you look on the landing page here, we have the story map and then the 3 info sheets linked here. So I welcome you to check that out. We're definitely interested in feedback still on the calendars. We'll be, updating these, adding in more detailed information during phase 2, but definitely if there's any feedback along the lines of, I don't really understand how you got to this, we need more information. It would be easier if you put it into this context, any kind of feedback that would help you understand this information better. Please share that, and then we'll use that to kind of create the updated versions of these for phase 2. Any questions about that or comments? Let's move on then to what is next for phase 2. So we have a lot of different things we said we were going to do for this phase 2. As I mentioned, the biggest thing that I think we need to focus on right now is data collection. We want to make sure we can get at least 2 full years of data collection before the project ends. We'll have this year, 2024, to get a full year. We'll have next year, and then we'll have part of 2026. So we are really trying to get a jump start on that. And I know Gina's done a great job in Louisiana of getting some new local phenology programs on board. That's trying to get these people who are part of organizations like city parks and nature centers, places that already have a good core set of volunteers, and then getting them set up to actually do this long-term data collection. But we are interested in, any data collection that we can get, even if it's not just a long-term program. So we have different options for using iNaturalist. We can go into that. So really trying to get some of these sites established early on so we can capture the spring flowering phenology. We're also interested in adding more species. This came up particularly for New Mexico. We want to make sure that we have species like bosque species that are important to members of Pueblos in New Mexico. So we're going to be doing some planning for listening sessions that are going to take place this year with some members of Pueblos in New Mexico. We're also adding on Texas. So we're going to be doing a stakeholder workshop, virtual workshop similar to the ones we did for the other 3 states a couple years ago, where we really listened to people who are working on pollinator restoration in Texas to hear what are their concerns, what are the species they're interested in, what are the parts of the state we should focus on. It is a huge state, so we're not going to be able to do, really cover the whole state. So are we going to try to focus in on certain areas? We're also going to be bringing on a Texas coordinator. We have a job description that we've put together for that. We're not quite ready to share that. I'm working with Rebecca Quinones-Quignon to try to figure out if we can potentially work with a group that already exists in the state. So we should have more information about that soon in the next week. We're also going to be bringing in herbarium data. And the exciting thing about that is, for this project, we have a couple years of data, but that doesn't really give us that great temporal depth of decades of data that can be really important for understanding climate change impacts. So we're going to be working in particular with the Torch group that Brooke mentioned. Actually using, they have a great tool on their website where you can actually classify some digitized herbaria records. And we're also going to be looking into a Zooniverse option to maybe bring in some herbaria records from some other collections as well, maybe in Louisiana and some other locations. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be updating those calendars, info sheets, and story maps. So definitely interested in feedback on the ones we came up with in phase 1. And then we're going to be doing a couple pilots that are pretty exciting. That'll happen on the latter end of the phase 2. But we want to pilot a seed notification service. This is something that would look like maybe an email notification or something like that, where you would get notified when there are ripe seed reports in your area. And that would be, a size of a certain, we could decide if it's 50 miles or 20 miles. So if someone reports that ripe seed near you, you get a notification. So you would be able to know where and when you could go out to actually collect seed for planting. And then we also want to do a pilot, kind of this very long-term vision of this project, which is a planting palette tool, which would allow you to have more control to kind of look at different aspects of the phenology calendar. So you could, plug in which species you're interested, what's the projection time frame you're looking at, what are the different factors you're interested in. Would it be plants that are maybe not as frost sensitive or things like that, and actually have a tool that you could work with online that would let you have more of a more guidance for deciding what to plant. So that's the plan for the next phase. So we're going to be kind of focusing on the data collection component early on this winter. And then we want to look at the addition of new species as well. And then we'll be focusing in on the adding Texas with the stakeholder workshop and Texas coordinator in the next several months. So any questions or thoughts on that? I see there's some things. Any questions or other thoughts? All right.
Hi, Erin. This is Melanie. Sorry. No, I'm really excited to see all this, and so I really appreciate the update, and it makes me more curious and definitely wanting to become more involved.
Great. Yeah, I see your message in the chat. So yeah, we'll definitely connect on that. That would be really great. We are going to be, I think Kim Eichhorst is kind of taking the lead on organizing us to do a planning session for some listening sessions. So maybe we can loop you in on that, the planning calls for that will hopefully happen in the next few weeks. All right, I just wanted to revisit the data collection a little bit too. And I know most of you are already familiar with this. This is something we've shown a bunch of times, but we do have several options for data collection. I just kind of wanted to remind everybody, we are kind of, leaning towards Nature's Notebook. If people do want to collect data and put it in an online platform, because based on the stakeholder workshops we did a couple years ago, we found that a lot of you are really interested in many different aspects of flowering, including the onset, when does flowering start, or when does the period of ripe seed start, the peak, when is the most nectar available, and then the duration. And so it's hard to get that unless you have these repeated observations where someone's going back to the same plants and telling you, no, I don't see open flowers. And then all of a sudden, yes, I do. That helps us pinpoint the onset. And then when do I see the most open flowers on a plant? That really helps us get at the peak. So we're really trying to get at least, we're hoping 10 different data collection sites in each state with Nature's Notebook. So we're definitely looking for more sites to be set up for that. But we do want to supplement with iNaturalist data as well. We realize that it is kind of a commitment to, set up a site in Nature's Notebook and plan on doing it over the long term. So if people are more interested in doing more incidental one-time observations, maybe you're visiting a part of your state that you're not necessarily going to go back to, please put your observations into iNaturalist if you want to record them in a public platform. And we'll be pulling in those data as well and kind of integrating them in with the Nature's Notebook data, and that just gives us, an extra layer of information. But of course, we do want to recognize that not everyone wants to put their data in an online platform. So we do have, the option. We encourage private data collection as well. I think, we have the protocols that we've developed through Nature's Notebook, and those are available for use outside of Nature's Notebook. So if you're talking with people who are hesitant to put their data in our database, you can, show them the protocols that we have, and they're welcome to use those and have them held in their own personal database. And then we can work with them, on a person by person or group by group basis, and help them, share the resources we have for data analysis and help them to work with those data kind of outside of our system too. All right, so I think that's all I wanted to touch on here. Any thoughts on data collection? We're always looking for more data collectors. So we have quite a few resources on the Time to Restore webpage. If I pop back over here. So we have a flyer. You can download a postcard size flyer or a bulletin flyer if you're interested in kind of sharing, spreading the word on that. We can get some more of those printed if anyone's interested in like handing them out. And then we have some guidelines that you can print out as well. Antonio, did you have something?
Yes, Erin, just to share with the rest of the group, my department here at Oklahoma State University is managing a natural preserve, McPherson Natural Preserve. And I just wanted to share that one plan that we have is to set up a monitoring plot there to monitor flowering phenology, basically. So just wanted to share with the group. We also have plans for data collection.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, and I don't know, Gina, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to share anything about, I know you've been doing a lot of recruitment lately and setting up some new programs. I don't know if you want to mention like what kinds of groups that you've been in contact with and how that's gone.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in contact with a lot of local parks in the greater New Orleans area and kind of trying to find the staff that are most involved in interpretation and interested in bringing in some kind of public programming that's citizen science oriented. So I'm working with the Audubon, Louisiana Nature Center and Bayou Sauvage, City Park, hopefully Audubon Park soon as well. But the way I've had the most success is just by finding, I guess, the people who are already deeply involved with the local networks like Master Naturalist, Master Gardener, folks who are kind of self-selectively inclined to participate in something like this. So yeah, we're super excited. I've found a bunch of really cool local people that I'm excited to work more with this year. Hopefully we'll have a productive year of data collection.
Awesome, thanks. Yvette, did you want to say something?
Mute. A couple of questions. You said you wanted to increase the number of sites in every region. Is there on the website a list or maybe a map with point sources or that has a range on it where the data is already being collected? So like just let's take Oklahoma, for instance. I don't know what parts of Oklahoma, what regions, and we have a lot of different ecosystems here. Where they are already working on things. That's one question. And the other thing is, I guess you guys are probably working with municipalities or maybe neighborhood associations, kind of like what she just said. Working with parks. I know there's quite a few people in my neighborhood association that are really interested in pollinator plants and things. And so I don't know, something I could present to them to see if they were interested, but.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, this is a map that shows the data that we kind of included in our analyses from the region, and the size of the dot is like how many years of data we had from that location. So you can kind of see where we have the data already in Oklahoma. There's a lot of places we don't have any data. I think it would be tough to try to cover like every part of every state, but so we're kind of opportunistically like trying to find, like groups like neighborhood associations, people that we have kind of links to already, or we can talk to. It's kind of been so far on we have the state coordinator. So Kim, of course, is the state coordinator for New Mexico. She's been kind of organizing data collection through the BEMP program. Jean has been doing that in Louisiana, and then Jane Breckenridge is our Oklahoma person. So she's kind of been the one who's deciding like, who to reach out to. But I think definitely like it really helps to use the networks that we have from the people on this call to be able to say like, I have a great idea of a new partner or a place that might be interested in data collection. And then we can either, get all those people together for like an online webinar or training or something, or Jane could organize like an in-person training. But I think if we just like kind of collect the names of ideas that you have, that would be really great. So I don't know if you have any you want to share. If anyone has any they want to share, you can put them in the chat or like send them to me, send them to Jane. If it's Oklahoma.
Yeah, so it would be so I could reach out to Jane and just ask some questions. I already know. So, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that would be great.
Because we're up there in that corner where there isn't anything, and then it doesn't look like there's much in the southwestern part of the state either. So.
Yeah, definitely. That would be great. Yeah, if you could help us fill in that area for sure. Thank you.
Curious, thanks.
I had a quick question about private data collection. I hadn't heard about that as a potential method before now, and that's kind of exciting to me because part of our patrons are really comfortable with technology and some are not, but they're still, avid observers and gardeners and such. So would that kind of look like maybe printing out kind of like the printout checklist of what Nature's Notebook asks you, and then like letting them fill that out and then getting that to you somehow? Or
yeah, I think there's a couple different options. So if the issue is the person doesn't feel comfortable with technology, but they're okay with their data being uploaded to a public database, because Nature's Notebook and iNaturalist are both public. So as soon as you upload data, the data are visible to anyone. If it's just the technology that's an issue, the local phenology program setup actually allows you to enter data on behalf of another person.
Oh, great. Okay,
so yeah, you can use that, and you could do it if it's, data sheets that you're collecting. If the issue is like with some of the tribes and pueblos we're working with, maybe they don't want the data to be shared publicly because of data sovereignty.
Oh, I understand.
Be different, and they wouldn't want anyone to enter it, into the database. So they could hold it, and maybe they have a database or something they're keeping privately. And we'd like to work with them to help them like leverage the resources that we have, the protocols, and if they want like the code that we have for doing the data analysis and assistance with that, we'd like to do that. But that would be like, two different use cases, I guess.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions? And I think I saw another question, I think maybe Gail had about using data from adjacent states. So we described that in the story map, but because the data were so limited, we weren't able to really develop a lot of models when we did the analysis without pulling in data from other places. So we did actually pull in data from other parts of the country. And then we included a variable for latitude, which kind of helps us understand, like, is there an influence of like something, the fact that plants were in Minnesota is that going to be like, part of the equation versus a plant that's in Oklahoma? So we did kind of account for that, but it would be great to only include data from the region if we had enough. So we're hoping that after a couple more years of data collection, we can do that and have the analysis focus just on the data collected in this region. So I did want to touch back on the priority species as well. So maybe I should look at, okay, so going back up to our species list. So after we did our 3 workshops a couple years ago for the New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, we did this voting process where we had people put in species that they care about, different nectar plants, and then we had everyone vote on them. And I think this is what we came up with here. It's a little hard. You can resort it different ways, but we came up with this massive list of species. We had people in the different workshops vote for the ones that they thought were the most important. And then we kind of, looked across the different states, and then in bold, these are the species we ended up selecting for a short list of 8 species. And the reason for doing that is, we didn't have much data at all in the state. We wanted to kind of drive data collection on a short list, so we didn't have a bunch of records or a few records on a lot of different species. So we have, it's not maybe the most ideal species list, but we do have that. We've been kind of focusing data collection on that so far. But we also recognize that for some states, this isn't a perfect list. So we wanted to kind of revisit that. One idea is we could kind of, look at by state, if we expand that list out, like if we, resort by Oklahoma, we could look at what are the other species that people voted for that we think are more important. We could kind of expand the species list out. We could do more promotion around this longer list, and we could do that for each state. We'll have another list from Texas as well after we do that workshop. Or maybe there's like a shared list that we could go with that's more broad, or we could even pick out a few genera that we feel like are like any milkweed, or some of these are already kind of at the genus level. So we could go with that, like anything that you have. We're a little bit limited if we're collecting data in Nature's Notebook by the species that we have on that list. This is whether it's in Nature's Notebook, it has a number here. And then for iNaturalist, you can report on anything. So that's not a limit on that platform. So I kind of, I did this for kind of like resorting by the different states and just pulled. So we had at least 15 species instead of our short list of 8. And this is kind of how that falls out. So we don't have to make a decision now, but I just kind of wanted to get people thinking about that. Is there anything that jumps out at you as this would be a good process to try to do this? Can we make this list a little bit longer for the different states?
Yes, I very much agree with that idea. A lot of the work I've done over the past year, Erin knows, has been trying to track down some of these priority species in the Louisiana area. And some of them are just very, very, very difficult to find and not commonly cultivated or occurring in any of the parks where we have our partners located. So I also think it would be good to include a couple of pollinator species that are maybe stratified by the season in which they are most important to pollinators. So one thing we have locally, Solidago, the goldenrods, I think would be great to include. I know that one's fairly common across the Gulf Coast and Gulf South. So yeah, I definitely think it would be good to include some more species that are a little bit more common and accessible, but still valuable to pollinators, so that we can kind of laser in on getting data for the priority species and make it a little easier to do that.
Okay. One thing we could try is we could do like another, like a Google Doc or a form where people could submit species that they're interested in. This spreadsheet is already kind of messy, so I don't know if we want people adding onto there or like adding more votes. But does anyone have any ideas about how to best figure out for the different states which species you'd want to add?
I think it might be a good idea to use a different sheet, because there's so much going on in this one, like you said, that may be a bit overwhelming. I know most folks that work with pollinator restoration and native plants probably have an idea in their head of anecdotally what they think are most valuable at the sites they manage. But yeah, maybe if everybody has a short list they want to submit, we could do a Google poll or some other kind in a separate sheet.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Ideas?
I have a quick one. I don't know what other columns you have out there to the right, but do you have anything that's like perennial, annual, herbaceous perennial, woody, just in terms of monitoring a population, and the things that you've got bloom
I think
season,
we
but
do. It's something that
okay.
we talked about, but I don't think we added it here. So yeah, that might be good.
I was just thinking if I was starting a one from scratch, I would probably make sure I had some that were over, over the entire year, plus some that had standing dead material. In case you missed stuff, you could kind of work backwards.
Yeah.
Of that past season.
Thoughts? Anyone else have thoughts?
I just have a quick question about this is obviously focused on pollinator plants and the resources that the pollinators are using for each of these species, but I'm wondering if talk of supporting the pollinators across the entirety of their life cycle has come up, and maybe the other types of species that are important for, say, larval stages.
Yeah, that's a great point. We haven't so far. We've kind of narrowed our focus onto flowering and seed timing. At least in Nature's Notebook, we have questions about leaves as well. So like for our milkweed species, people can report on both the flowering and the leaves. So we can get that data, even though we're not like, asking people to observe that in particular. Most people will fill out the whole data sheet when they make an observation. We haven't pulled leaf observations from iNaturalist. When we pull that data, I think most people, if they take a picture of a plant, they take a picture of a flowering plant. So it's been a little easier to get those records. So that might be more limiting, but at least on the Nature's Notebook side, those data are there for a lot of these species.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin.
Okay, so I'm going to try to come up with some sort of a Google poll or form or spreadsheet kind of thing, and then send that around to the full quarterly call group and see what we get from that. And we can, we'll see how many different species are proposed, and hopefully there'll be a voting system there, and we can see how it falls out and maybe discuss on the next quarterly call. Cool. So the other thing that I wanted to share is Jean has been putting together these short videos in support of information about ripe seeds, because this is something that we're interested in as part of this project. We do not have a lot of data. We have a lot more data in Nature's Notebook on flowering than fruiting. And I think for a lot of these nectar plants, it's really hard to know whether you are even looking at a fruit or if it's ripe. And we have guidance on that. So as part of the Nature's Notebook protocol, we actually tell you for this species, you'll know it's a ripe fruit when it turns dark brown and it like falls apart when it's touched or something like that. But we wanted to have some other resources as well, including photographs and even videos. So hopefully you can see this, but Gina's put together a few of these that are just really short videos where she's showing, this is for buttonbush and showing what an unripe versus a ripe seed looks like. And I think this is really useful in kind of having that visual, and it's not just a photograph, but actually seeing what it looks like, so you can tell, if it falls apart in your hand when you touch it, it's ripe. So the plan that I'm thinking is I want to get these onto our Time to Restore landing page. I'm not sure where else we can post them to make them most useful, but putting some like text overlay on this that says like what species it is, and then a description of ripe seed, so this is an unripe and the other one is ripe, with some of the wording from our definitions that describes what it looks like. So I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on that. I think embedding the videos on the landing page is something we can do right now. We can't really get them into our Nature's Notebook app, but we might be able to post it other places on the Nature's Notebook website. But any thoughts on that? I mean, we have like social media is another place we could post things, but I think in terms of an education resource, having it at least available on this landing page is what I was thinking. But any thoughts on that? And thanks, Gina, for making these.
Yeah, of course. I'm definitely a little biased because I've been having fun making them, but I do think that it's valuable to have something like that because buttonbush being a good example of something where it's kind of hard to tell when the seeds are ripe because they're dark brown for a while, sometimes several months before they're actually ripe and like falling apart. And I think that we've had issues with people in the past judging them to be fully ripe when they're just brown. So definitely that's where I see the value in this. As far as implementation, I think the landing page sounds good too, but yeah.
Cool. The other thing we were wondering is if anyone in some of the other states would be interested in making any more recordings. Gina's done a great job of starting to get some of the ones in Louisiana, but she definitely doesn't have access to all the species, even on the short list of species, or if there's other species we come up with in this new kind of longer list. So I don't know if anyone likes to take little videos. Gina did some of these with her camera, or phone camera, right? And then some on your other camera. But it seems like the camera ones are still great enough quality that we can use them on the website.
These were actually all my phone camera, and most phones nowadays in the newer generations have cameras that are high quality enough to produce video that has a comparable resolution to what you'll get from a DSLR video camera at a much more compressed but still usable file size. So I tried a little bit with the DSLR and the files were just absolutely enormous and it was a pain to work with. So if this works with the phone videos, great. Let's go with that.
Yeah, and you've been filming them horizontally, right? Which I think gives you a little more flexibility. If we decide to make them profile later, we can do that, but horizontal is the best way to shoot them.
It really doesn't matter as long as you're zoomed out far enough. So some of the ones that I uploaded to that file, I actually did film vertically and then cropped into the horizontal aspect ratio to just more close. So either way is fine as long as you leave yourself enough of a margin to crop the way that you're going to need to.
Cool, yeah. So I think if anyone, if you're encountering these species, you might not be seeing too many ripe seeds right now, but maybe later in the summer or the fall. We can do the processing too later. So if you just want to submit, I can send this link around to for the folder. If anyone wants to take any short videos, and we can use those.
It's fun. I recommend it. It leads me to do a lot more thoughtful walking when I'm out in nature and kind of makes everything a little ripe seed hunt. So anyone who would like to join me on this is definitely welcome.
Yeah, and Laura, Gail had a comment about showing dormant flowers in the winter as well. Yeah, some of the buds too, I think, right? Like the species that have winter buds before they have flowers, knowing when to start counting them as flowers can be useful too. And we also have some photo guide resources that we can work on too this year and try to get some more just like still shots of these spaces. So that was all I had for things that I definitely wanted to make sure we shared and talked about. But definitely want to make space now if anyone has anything they want to connect with someone else on, or any questions or thoughts overall about the project. We will likely have another quarterly call in April. So that will be something I'll send around in a couple months. And then I will send around the seed form or poll or whatever it may be.
Erin, are there any particular partners that we want to get this data collection from, or are we open to invite whoever would be open to sharing the data? Do we need to be specific since it's grant funded, or are we pretty much open to whatever data we can get in Oklahoma we get?
We're open to whatever we can get. Yeah, I think what we've been trying to keep in mind is just, not trying to force everyone into one platform. So I think, anyone that would be interested in collecting data is welcome. and you could offer the different options to them, you know, whether it's an online platform, Nature's Notebook or INAT, or hosting their own data privately. But yeah, we'd love to get as much data as we can. So
Okay. And as I'm learning, I'll try to figure out how I can fit in to help as we go too. But my focus right now can kind of be those months that we're not getting data and possibly getting some data on some Chickasaw significant or Chickasaw territory significant plants, if that fits in kind of what we're doing.
yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, thank you.
Erin, can I jump in quick?
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to bring up one of the projects that we just finished up was a Lake Superior shoreline restoration plant guide. And one of the things that we identified as a barrier to using native plants for shoreline restoration was sourcing seed. And, you know, we're talking about videos, identifying ripe seed, and possibly a notification system for when seed is ripe. And one of the things that our tribal advisory group told us is they were very sensitive to making sure the general public understood that collecting seed on tribal land is a big no-no.
Yeah.
Without permission. And I think it's just something that we need to educate people on.
Yeah, that is a great point. Yeah, so I mean, I think there's some decisions we can make on, like, in the tool we're developing on just not showing data from certain places. But do you have other thoughts on other ways we can do that educational component?
I mean, we included it right in the document that we produced when we had guidelines on seed collection in terms of, you know, we took guidelines from one of the states, I don't remember which one it was, on kind of how much to collect, but then we also included things like know where you are, and what the regulations might be there. If you do want to collect on tribal or Pueblo land, make sure you have permission. And really kind of focused on how do you promote that relationship, not just with whoever the landowner is, but actually that the plants in general too. And you know, make sure you're not taking too much from one area. Things like that.
Yeah, I really like that. So we could definitely put something, like, we could have a statement that we use, you know, that includes all those things and have it on the landing page, especially in the section where we're talking about ripe seeds. And then any sort of like the info sheets that we put out, as well as like the story map that describes the process. Yeah, I think that's.
And I'll put a link to the document I'm talking about in the chat here quick.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
I have another thing to bring up that's sort of on that same note. So Erin knows I've been doing some work with Home Nation to help get them seed starts, plants to restore a plot of land that they've just received in a grant. So Home Nation does want to participate in the Nature's Notebook data collection as a community activity and to, you know, collect the data for their own management purposes. And they did, after some debate, eventually decide to go with using the Nature's Notebook app and submitting the data to the, you know, publicly available database. But I think sort of it was because their management with paper is just kind of cumbersome and not really all that accessible for them to take on as a separate project. So I think it would be good if there was, you know, looking to the future, some way that they could use the app and then have the data held privately rather than it automatically uploading, and just be able to select what kind of site you want to have, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, is enable that like private setting where a group that's collecting data doesn't have to have their data be publicly accessible. And mostly because of our federal funding that we haven't been able to do that in the past, but things are changing for us. So it's something that we can definitely revisit going forward. And then, yeah, other options might be just like helping other groups that want to hold data externally, like have that code or the platform and be able to like replicate it. So they don't have to give it to us, even if it's private, you know, they could actually like recreate that system. and then have full ownership over it.
Great.
Yeah, those are great thoughts. Yes, one other thing, I'm planning on going to the MJV meeting in Austin. That's at the beginning of March. Is anyone else planning on going there? I would love to meet up if so.
I will be there if you
Okay,
yeah. Hey.
Yeah, I'll be there too.
Okay, cool. It would be great to meet you guys in person. Any other last thoughts? Questions? Well, thank you all for coming again. And yeah, I'll be in touch over email with the species selection tool. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to come and chat with us. And we'll see you all next time.
See y'all next time.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you in March. Bye.
Thank you so much, Erin. See you guys.
Thank you.